Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a video where I don't really have a clear answer, and I think it's best to leave it up to your own personal interpretation. The topic is obviously pretty privilege, and it's a topic that I'm always so curious about because there are times when I agree and then other times when I disagree. But I want to focus on the music industry because I think the pretty privilege conversation usually comes up when we talk about musicians, especially female musicians, whether it's rap or pop, etc. And currently, Ice Spice's name keeps coming up with these conversations, especially after she dropped her latest single and announced her debut album. Now, being pretty is a social currency. It has the potential to get you really far in life and get you opportunities if you're able to wield it. And a lot of people have been able to use their physical attractiveness to get themselves far and to reap certain benefits that someone who doesn't look like them in the same position wouldn't be able to get. A good example could be all of the members of the Hype House from TikTok. People weren't just there for their dancing, they found them physically attractive enough. I also think it's a double-sided coin because someone like Megan Fox has been objectified because of her beauty, and that has probably taken away from her work as an actress. And then after the Amanda Seales interview with Club Shay Shay, I surprisingly saw a few comments talking about how she had or has pretty privilege but was not able to use it to her benefit. Instead, her focus was on social justice, and that had been a net negative to her career. But what do I know? I'm just a messenger. But overall, most people will choose being pretty over not being pretty because the potential reward often outweighs the risk, especially to those who have never benefited from said privilege. So back to the reason I want to talk about this. Ice Spice put out a song called Give Me a Light, and before this song, everyone was supportive of her music and career because she puts out fun, boppy songs, and her image is pretty unique, especially from the stereotypical rap girl. But then she put out Give Me a Light, and then everybody is now saying that, well, she's only getting this far because of her pretty privilege, when just before this, she had genuine support from the internet. People were buying her singles and hyping her up at her live performances. But I remember when Ice Spice first came onto the scene, it was basically because of her hair, and people were not really talking about how pretty she was. In fact, if you look at the top comments of her Munch video, it's people clowning her and talking about how she's formulaic and a one-verse wonder. Let me say that again. Not a one-hit wonder, but a one-verse wonder. I also think she blew up because, like I said, her hair was pretty unique. The color and the length and the curls, many people hadn't seen someone like that, especially in rap or the mainstream media. She was also an unproblematic person who people were curious about. But back to her song, Give Me a Light. When it came out, everybody basically reached the final conclusion that her songs are becoming repetitive. She keeps singing about farts and poop, which I think is funny, and the visuals that she provides are stale, and that if she didn't look the way that she did, she wouldn't have the career that she has. Which seems pretty contradictory because it's the same audience that supported her and made her mainstream are the same people saying that she got here because she's pretty. But Ice Spice has been consistent in her music and her aesthetic, and the only thing that has really changed is the audience wants to mold her into something she's not. It makes me curious as to why people don't just support what they want in the first place, rather than making someone who they don't really want to be famous, and then complaining when that person is consistent with what made them famous. But the power lies with the audience who can make anything or anyone go viral, and if there's a lack of support for an artist, that means that there's no views, no endorsements, and no more music. But you can't still watch, engage, listen, buy tickets and albums, and then say that they're successful because of pretty privilege alone, or that they're an industry plant. It's more like they, or Ice Spice in this case, has pretty privilege and was heavily supported by an audience. So I think, if anything, we need to start talking about the role of the audience and general listeners and consumers, because in today's day and age, they wield all the power. Labels can't manufacture a star. There's not enough money that can be used to push someone and make them mainstream, especially if the audience doesn't gravitate towards them and support them long term. For the pretty privileged conversation, I also look at people like Doja Cat and then Tinashe, who are pretty and should fully benefit from pretty privilege, but they've struggled at one point in their careers. Starting with Doja Cat, she was basically shelved by her label until she put out Move for Fun, and then because it went viral, her record label was now like, oh okay, now we will start to push you. And then with Tinashe, she was talented and was pushed at first with hit songs like Tuan and All Hands on Deck, but once she wanted to experiment with her sound, her label basically shelved her despite her being super marketable. She ended up leaving her label and working as an independent artist, funding every project on her own and not gaining that mainstream success that she previously had. And so in this case, even though you can say objectively Ice Spice is not as talented as a musician as compared to Tinashe, because not only can Tinashe sing, put on a show, dance, and even write and produce her own music, Ice Spice is still more commercially successful. And if it wasn't for Tinashe's song Nasty, which is currently going viral, people haven't been paying attention to her. The public hasn't really given her that push, and so you could say that her pretty privilege hasn't really helped her in her long-term success. Another example is Madison Beer, super pretty. She's had multiple hit songs like Selfish, which is one of my personal favorites, but she hasn't had that mainstream break despite almost a decade in the industry. Then we have Saweetie. She found success with Icy Girl, and even when she changed her aesthetic, people were still enjoying and supporting her music. But then she came out with an EP that unfortunately had low sales, her live performances were becoming memes, and so despite her pretty privilege, she's not really finding success in the music industry. She reminds me more of Ice Spice than anyone else that I've mentioned so far, because they make similar music, they have similar aesthetics, and they are known for their high-profile brand deals and sponsorships, but Saweetie doesn't have the same success on the charts. But maybe it's because Ice Spice is a new artist, and so time will tell. Because at one point, Saweetie was as successful as Ice Spice, and they were basically the same type of artist. To me, pretty privilege in the music industry is hard to pinpoint because someone like SZA has pretty privilege and just so happens to have music that people really connect to and is always going viral. And then you have someone like Sia, who never showed her face and really let her voice shine through and found massive commercial success. And even till this day, I don't think I could pick Sia out from a picture or a crowd. Now, this doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Label executives and fans, because as I said earlier, fans also have huge power on who becomes and stays successful. They do require women to be most often physically attractive first, and then talented, and then entertaining. And I don't know if this is conscious or unconsciously, but it's something that definitely exists. I also want to briefly talk about the male pretty privilege because it's always compared to female pretty privilege and how there's a huge unequal gap. What I've observed is women don't seem to be very strict about what they find attractive in men. That's why even quote-unquote non-conventionally attractive men are still being thirsted over by women, but the same is not reciprocated for women by male fans. Emphasis on male fans. It's mostly female fans who go out of their way to highlight the quote-unquote non-conventionally attractive female celebrities for their beauty and attractiveness. And then there's things like ugly hot, the big boy trend, dad bods, and the rise of hot rodent men, which I can't believe is a term someone coined and then wrote an article about. But these are all things women are into well enough that there are terms for it, and these men who fit into these categories go viral and are praised for their unconventional features. In my opinion, movies for a long time have reinforced to a lot of women that if a guy is unattractive, he's more likely to treat you well, as compared to a handsome man. You have the coming-of-age movies where the socially outcast guy gets the school's popular beauty queen as a girlfriend because of his oh-so-amazing personality. And then you have every Adam Sandler and Adam Sandler adjacent movie where the average guy has a super hot wife. This doesn't mean that there aren't certain expectations in Hollywood for men to look a certain way. Men like Zac Efron have spoken out about the way they struggle to look a certain way, especially for roles in movies.
Really? It was so hard. We ate a ton of food during Baywatch, tremendous amounts of food. Like, he'll eat like twice the amount of protein I have in a day, and a huge thing of carbs, and he'll just have it like in a 1 5-minute period between a take. The hardest part was eating, you know? You just have to eat a ton of
And how that has taken a toll on their physical and mental health. I do believe there's a certain expectation for how a man should look physically in the media, but there's more leeway on how they can look and more categories they can fall into and still be accepted. My opinion about pretty privilege and how that affects one's success, especially when it comes to the entertainment industry, is that because the industry is not a meritocracy or just about talent, a person's success will always have to rely on more than just their talent, and that includes all the privileges they have that could help them stand out. And with that being said, this does bring me to the end of my video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Like I said at the beginning, I don't really have a fixed position because it's always changing and there's more information that I feel like I learn every day about this topic. So I would really love to know your personal opinion and experiences down in the comment section below. Like this video if you can, it really helps with the algorithm. Subscribe. I've been talking about how I'm almost at 200 subscribers, but this time I really am almost there. So please subscribe if you can. I would really appreciate it. Okay, so this is me editing the video and I surpassed 200 followers, which is something I can't believe I did. And I'm so grateful for every single person for clicking the subscribe button, for watching. I just feel so grateful. Thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you in my next video.